listening to Let's Talk Sustainable Business.
Hi, my name is Bárbara Mendes-Jorge, and I am a sustainability communications expert based in Brussels, Belgium. It's a pleasure to welcome you to a new season of Let's Talk Sustainable Business, a series brought to you by the Conference Board. We're kicking off the season by interviewing two Conference Board team members who are working on a range of sustainability topics, some of which will be explored further in future episodes. I'd like to introduce Manali Paranjpe, Program Director of the Conference Board's ESG Center Europe. She is based in Mumbai, India, and Paula Byrne, Program Director at the ESG Center, who is based in Brussels, Belgium. In this special episode, Manali and Paula are going to talk about the work they're doing for the Conference Board at the ESG Center, the sustainability themes the Center is focused on this year, and their vision for the future. So welcome, Manali and Paula.
Hi.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for having us here today.
You're very welcome, Manali. Could I start by asking you both to briefly introduce yourselves?
I am happy to be here today to talk about what we do at the ESG Center. As a background, I'm a lawyer and I've worked in civil law practice in India for over a decade. I must say I've been lucky to, work in capital markets, both debt and equity. I've done lending transactions, general corporate assignments, and a lot of real estate deals and due diligence as well. So, with that kind of experience, I moved to the conference board about 8 years ago. And I started out as a research associate in corporate governance. And then, honestly, the expansion to sustainability was a logical transition for me.
Great. Thank you, Manali. How about you, Paula?
I'm a newbie to the conference board and the ESG Center, so I joined in 2023. But I have, I'm afraid to say, almost 20 years experience in sustainability. I started working in a trade association here in Brussels, so that's got me into sustainability, working on their supply chains in cocoa, palm oil, and hazelnuts. And then I moved from there, from the origins of responsible sourcing, into a wider corporate sustainability um, management, working with companies to how to manage sustainability in all three areas of ESG and how they interact. And my most recent experience was working in-house for Samsung Electronics as their director of sustainability. And then I came to the conference board, where I'm very happy to be joining.
Wonderful. Thank you. So now that you've introduced yourselves, could you let our listeners know what kind of work you're doing at the ESG Center?
We have a lot of offerings at the center, really. And before we, do a deep dive into that, uh, let me tell you what our core purpose is all about. It's to guide companies in their sustainability journeys. So, whatever it is that we do, we are guided by our core principles. So, and we do this by working creatively, by employing different formats. So, to give you an example, for our C suite audience, we have our thought leadership pieces. For our leadership teams at companies, we conduct workshops and we host masterclasses. I'm reminded here of the session on greenwashing that you conducted for our members last year. It was very engaging and very thought provoking.
Thank you. It
And
was very fun to do.
for for a company-wide audience, really, we run working groups and deep dive exchanges, which we are going to talk about during this podcast. And what are these deep dive exchanges or working groups really? So these are to unpack concepts that we cannot deal with in a single session. So, for example, we run a working group on the CSRD. So, we work with members over a period of time. We meet them once a month and we discuss in terms of the CSRD. To give you an example, we discuss double materiality assessment, we discuss ESG specific disclosures. So, that's really what we do in a year.
Wonderful. So, what kind of companies and organizations does the ESG Center work with?
So, Barbara, all types of companies and organizations are most welcome to be a part of the ESG Center. We work with large conglomerates, we work with listed entities and larger companies. Anybody really, any establishment really that's interested in engaging in sustainability conversations or building in sustainability into their culture, we are very happy to work with them.
Wonderful. Thank
Uh,
you.
I think that's the point of the center, is also to the center and the conference board in general is all companies are welcome, and it's the value between the different sectors. So members always talk about they get a lot of value from speaking from many different types of companies, listed, not listed, different sectors. All types of sectors are involved in the work we do, which is basically what makes us richer.
So that's one of the benefits of the conference board, that because you have companies from lots of different sectors, it doesn't mean that they're only talking to themselves, they're talking to all other sectors as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, thank
That's
you.
Exactly.
that's right, Barbara. And most importantly, these sessions are also Chatham House rule sessions. So we encourage really a free exchange of thoughts. And we always send across this message to our member companies that thought leadership need not always focus on finding answers. It's also about raising right questions. So that really is also a key note in our sessions.
Great, thank you. So getting into that a little bit more, your website says that the conference board is a member-driven think tank, and I was hoping that you would be able to expand on exactly what that means.
The conference board combines the traditional role of a think tank. So it's over 100 years old, and we are backed by a huge body of continuous research, learning, surveys, data. So it's a huge knowledge bank. And we also have centers across the globe, so in North America, Europe, and Asia. So there's that sharing of information. We're following, the latest insights from companies, but also from business and from policymakers and other thought leaders and thinkers in the world. So, and the work is driven. I think what makes it more member driven is the unique part of it is the work is really driven by the members and their needs. And as Manali said, what questions they are facing, what are the new models, the need to design. They can access the groups of peers and get involved, and they can also just learn from each other, or they can lead the group. So they can lead with their question and get the insights from each other, and then we also have the backup of research. And we'll always, in the deep dives and in any of the work we do, we always follow up with or accompany it with a piece of work, whether that's a written paper, which should be very short, and we're spending a lot of time making sure it's practical, that there's something they can take, use it internally, and translate it to their situation. Or we are looking at tools that they can use. For example, in the group that Manali is working with the CSRD, the Human Rights Due Diligence, they're working on a check list. So something that's very practical, quick takeaways, but something very useful. So that we're mixing the two. There's a huge bank of knowledge, but we're trying to always distill that down to something that companies can either just come in, dip in, take it out, lead a deeper discussion, or be part of the group and build new knowledge.
So, I mean, I think you've touched upon what I wanted to ask in my next question, which is what distinguishes the work you do at the conference board and at the ESG Center from other sustainability oriented member organizations. So, you said you brought different sectors together, that the members drive the agenda, and that you're trying to provide as much as possible practical information drawing from your bank of research. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight that makes the conference board a bit different from other organizations?
I think the podcast.
Ah, very nice.
Little
Promo
plug
within
for you,
the
Barbara.
podcast.
Because we mentioned your greenwashing center, but I think that this also is part of the delivery that we give collectively with you. I mean, you drive this, and that's also getting other sources of information, and it's another medium for people to engage with what we do and how we work. We hope we're encouraging them in their sustainability journeys.
I feel like I can answer this question as well then. I mean, I think what has been really fantastic about the podcast is the variety of themes. I think this is the beginning of a new season. We're going to talk about lots of different themes related to sustainability, but with the previous season that has just gone, it wasn't just only that we had very interesting speakers, but I really tried to make it as practical as possible. And especially talking about legislation, which is my next question. I mean, Manali, you touched upon the fact that you had a legal background, and Paula mentioned your work on the CSRD. But what specifically, what help can you provide companies who are having issues understanding this whole current stream of sustainability legislation?
That's a very good question, Barbara, because this is a very important issue that companies are facing. The speed at which legislation is being enacted at the EU level, that is certainly causing a few difficulties at company levels as to how to go about everything. So, like Paula mentioned, we do our working groups as well. So, we focus on making the process easier. We break it down into bite sized pieces. And like Paula mentioned, we do have a lot of voluminous research that we have at the conference board. And in addition to that, we also collaborate with external experts. We bring them in when we think we really, can benefit a lot from their expertise. And our guiding principle there is really who can we bring in to deliver what's needed. So we've partnered with Greenemy, we've partnered with Deloitte, we have external experts like you as well, and we really bring them in so that our members can benefit from their enriching discussions. We also have Lucas Burkamp, who's our senior policy advisor for EU affairs. He is also a lawyer himself. He leads our quarterly briefing sessions on the regulatory updates. So our regulatory briefing sessions, really we talk about new laws and new laws that are even there in the pipeline. So companies can prepare themselves and plan in advance. So the one we had recently was a very interesting one. We spoke at length on the PPWR, that's the EU packaging waste regulation that's upcoming. And that's where I think we can really help our members in their sustainability journeys ahead.
Great, thank you. So we've talked a lot about sustainability legislation, and we've also talked about the topics that the ESG Center would like to focus on this year. So could I ask you to summarize some of the main areas that you're focusing on in 2024?
So the members have given us a list of topics that are really, I think, I would like to say we're always looking for the opportunity of these, but at the moment they're pain points, and how to, I think a lot of it is implementation of legislation, or the impact of legislation in companies. So this year our focuses are, I'll start with my own love, my own topic, human rights. So operationalizing human rights into the business. So the CSRD, or the corporate sustainability due diligence legislation, has given us a robust framework. But how do you put that into practice in the company? Who should be involved? How do you incentivize suppliers to strengthen their practices? What makes sense beyond assessment and audits? And so it's really looking at building that from the legislation into opportunities in the organization. The next one is a hot topic, because there was a lot of movement on that last year and the previous year, on biodiversity. So there's been a big shift in global standards and defining biodiversity. But many companies are pledging a net zero, nature positive. But what does that mean in practical terms? So they're now getting down to the details and thinking, what does this mean for me? And taking stock of different corporate strategies, learning from the first action. So some people, have moved fast. So there's learnings there. And getting back to your topic, how they do all of this without avoiding greenwashing.
Of course, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, because I think all of the topics that you've touched upon, companies haven't had to talk about them in such depth before. What I kept saying in the last season as well was how, especially human rights, the social element of sustainability was often ignored. Sometimes it's reduced to just carbon emissions, and circular economy is a whole business shift. So if you really want to incorporate it into your business model, you need to start really thinking about quite existentially about how to do it, not just on the reporting. So very important topics this year. And hopefully you'll help make them not pain points.
That is the plan.
By the end of the year, right? This is what's going to happen. I have faith in you.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity at the moment, talking to the members meetings recently with the CSRD, even though they are submerged in it and trying to figure it out, they're really seeing that it's opening up new avenues for them within the company, new relationships. So there's a lot of opportunity of it's not just actually about the reporting, it's what goes on behind and getting new colleagues on board, which, you know, there's a lot. I heard a lot more, ooh, there's opportunities here rather than we have CSRD.
That's what you want,
yeah.
right? I mean, I've been working recently on sustainable finance as well, and the opportunities there, and how if a company measures their real full carbon footprint, it's an opportunity to, move to more low carbon suppliers or engage suppliers, as you said, which is a very difficult challenge at the beginning. But it's not just pain. There are opportunities as well, for sure.
Yeah. And climate is another big topic for this year. But I think Manali wants to. You want to come in on climate?
Yes. And adding on to what Paula just mentioned right now, so the mistake we often make is to look at something in isolation, to look at it from a very narrow perspective. So typically, a first reaction to a legislation like the CSRD is, oh no, more compliance, oh no, yet more reporting. So we've always worked with members to, help them understand what's going on, and to help them really understand that this is a piece of the larger puzzle. So you need to look at it from a holistic point of view and not restrict yourself to looking at only a checkbox compliance. And that's where something like climate also assumes importance, because not only is it an important piece uh, for our work really, but that's an all encompassing topic, and all companies need to be mindful of that. So we are coming up with a few interesting discussions on climate. We recently wrote on the carbon border adjustment mechanism. We are looking into scope 4 emissions right now, which not many really know about. So stay tuned for our research work on that. And by the end of this year, we intend to publish a piece on climate litigation, which is going to be a deep dive into the current status of climate litigation in the EU specifically, and what companies need to be mindful of. And definitely, greenwashing is going to be a very important bit in that discussion.
Yeah, if I could promote a previous episode, we had Malgorzata Golobiewska, who leads the EU Green Claims Directive, and that is going to be a vital piece of legislation for companies to look at if they want to avoid greenwashing and thinking about how they want to communicate about how sustainable their products are. So, if you're interested in this topic, please do check that out as well. So we've talked about 2024. Moving beyond this year, what is the ESG Center's vision in the next few years in the future?
So, what we really want to do in the future, Barbara, is that we want to expand our scope. We want to reach out to more members in terms of how to really embed sustainability into your culture, finding out your purpose. And it's not only about talking about legislation or what you need to do at the moment, it's what is the right thing that you have to do for yourself, for the organization, for the stakeholders. So that's really what we want to focus on. We will, as we go along, work with our members on what they find difficult to navigate, and we are certainly there for them. But largely, our focus is going to be on how best we can move on the sustainability front, because that is really something that requires you to move ahead on multiple fronts.
Yeah, I can add also that from the company perspective and from specifically from the CSOs, the Chief Sustainability Officers that we work with, they are looking broader than 2024 in the sense that, yes, they are submerged with legislation and certain pain points in the mid 2020s, but they're thinking, okay, where's the next push for transition? Where's the next opportunity to move the needle? So we're really trying to also support them in looking at the opportunity of sustainability, the business case for sustainability. It's not just about meeting legislation. These are things that are important for the business to continue in 2040, 2050, and beyond. So we really want to, from this year, we're going to be working on a topic of the the ROI of sustainability, and really looking at what companies have found to move sustainability forward, where they can find allies within the company, and really build their own sustainability journey rather than just simply complying with law.
That's a very important point. I think you've both mentioned the kind of checkbox element of compliance, where actually, if you're having to measure things that you previously didn't, you know how to better manage it. So if you have to measure a full carbon footprint, you might be able to find carbon hotspots that you didn't know about. So it's an opportunity to lower your carbon emissions, save money, etc. And as I mentioned with sustainable finance, as things shift, if you're a forward-thinking company, it's a real opportunity to get involved in that, because that is the direction investment is heading in, and there's lots of opportunities there. So good that you're holding the hands of companies, but showing the positive side as well. So that sounds very good. To finish up our chat, what message do you have for our listeners and the conference board members listening who want to embrace a more sustainable future?
I would only say, Barbara, don't lose focus on your purpose and your ethics in your journey ahead.
Perfect. Manali. Paula?
I would say look for the opportunity, keep going. It is difficult at the moment. There's a lot of negative discussion out there. We have the ESG backlash in the US, other similar backlash in Europe, but think about the bigger picture and think about the ways forward, and that there are many peers out there and in the conference board and the ESG Center to support you, and with many ideas.
Wonderful. Help is out there. And my final question, if companies are interested in becoming a member of the conference board, what kind of businesses, companies, sectors are you looking to work with, and where can they find more information about how to join?
Again, we are open to all types of companies. If they are looking to start their sustainability journey, augment their sustainability journey, we have many different topics that can support them. They can always find us via the website, on LinkedIn. We have the center and the TCB. From this podcast's social media. Where else can they find us, Manali?
Feel free to reach out to either Paula or me, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Perfect. In which case, I'd like to thank you, Paula and Manali, for joining me today. And if you're interested in finding out more about the ESG Center and the work it is doing, you can visit the website at tcb.org/EU/environmental-social-governance. And thanks to our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to this podcast series and explore the entire catalogue of podcast programming from the Conference Board by visiting the website at tcb.org/podcasts. See you next time.
That was